I'm in the north end of Boston at a graveyard called Copp's Hill, C-O-P-P-S. And I'm in the back corner. That's Charter Street right there. Boston Harbor's right out there. I'm here because there's a guy buried here. His name is John Goodwin, and he's directly related to the witch trials in Salem, Massachusetts that happened a few years later after the story I'm going to tell you. It was 1688, and the Goodwin, who was a stonemason, they had a washwoman that would do their laundry for them, and something happened to some items of laundry, and the daughters started to accuse a woman named Goody Glover, who was the wash lady, of stealing. And Goody was Irish, she was Catholic. Honestly, her English was horrible. She spoke Gaelic, and she really couldn't defend herself very well. There was a lot of miscommunication. But John Goodwin, well, the daughters, they started to become ill, and they began to blame Goody Glover, and John Goodwin himself began pointing the finger. This is his grave, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you can read it. He really started to point the finger at Goody Glover. And because of her lack of English, and she was a little bit, defensive and feisty, they really went after her. And this guy, Cotton Mather, very famous Puritan preacher, who also later became deeply tied into Salem, happens to be buried, I don't know, within 30 feet of John Goodwin. And Cotton Mather, he got involved, and the justice, who also was the Chief Justice in Salem, his name was Stoughton. He was the justice that would hear this trial about Goody Glover. And Increase was Cotton's father. Anyway, she was convicted, and she was hung on Boston Neck, which is a little sliver of Boston that connected to the mainland, and her body was dumped into a watery pit that was out there. But the story, well, Cotton Mather, he ended up writing a book about the whole thing, and became and it was a bestseller, quote unquote. And so the word spread about how the daughters, acted out, and I'll link a description below, but it's very similar to what the girls did in Salem a few years later and started that whole thing. And then Cotton Mather was up there being the expert, and then Stoughton, I believe his name is William Stoughton, who was also buried in Boston in a different graveyard, he was the Chief Justice, and they ended up hanging or killing 19 innocent people before they were done. So, if you want to come, I don't know, you pay your respects. I don't think you do. This is Goodwin's grave, and historians know about this, but the average layman doesn't really know anything about it.